Hey everybody, this is Sabrina. Welcome back to my channel. I will be doing another July favorite book that I read, and I'm not even sure how to describe it without giving anything away. I don't even know how I stumbled upon this book, but I am so glad that I did, and I'm glad that I decided to do a favorites page because I almost decided that I wasn't going to. I am currently cutting up the clear stickers for the Texas Republican newspaper in 1870, and I'm going to tuck it on the left-hand side. I also have the Jefferson courthouse, I believe, and then Chapel Street in New Orleans around 1870. Those are important to the book. Now I'm just kind of tapping my fingers because I didn't know where I was going to go with the design of this book. I looked at the book cover and it had a forest, and that is important in the book. And you'll just have to read it. Take my word for it, please. Just if you're willing to try a historical fiction book that is way outside the box, and you just read the excerpt of this book about Diamond Bessie, and that's all you go with, you'll love this book. Afterwards, you can maybe do some research. But to start with, it's just an incredible story of a very little known historical figure and someone that is still kind of their history is still, I don't know if celebrated is the right word, but still talked about in the town of Jefferson, Texas today. And I didn't know that until I finished this book. But this book was such a wonderful story and one of the wildest books that I have ever read. It's about a girl named Annie who's 16, winds up pregnant and goes to live with the nuns. And once she gives birth, she runs away. Like, the nuns are horrible and treat her awful because she's an unwed mom. And that was just the way things were. And she manages to escape. And that's kind of where her story takes place, and I'll talk about that more in my thoughts. So I got the idea for the forest, and I had a Paper Person Shop tree stamp set. So I'm doing a dark the book reminds me of a moody forest. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. So I stamp in gray and greens and some blues. I don't give every tree like a top, so I just add a bunch of trees, and I even had a lighter gray that added some depth and dimension to my forest. And so I just keep building my little forest, and I wound up with 3 forests. And I will also add in some shading in a little bit, or not shading, but it's like a blending brush, and I felt like that really added to the spooky vibe of it. And I had a stitch stamp that I used for the lines of the forest, did that in blue and black, and I really love how that came together. It just definitely captured the theme of the book, which is not what I was expecting at all. So I took the Jefferson courthouse and I put that on paper and then put it onto my spread and just trimmed off the piece that was going to go on the left-hand side, so that way it spreads across 2 pages. For the New Orleans one, I just trimmed that, and I also put that on paper because I didn't want it to be totally see-through. For the newspaper in the bottom right corner, I just tore a section from the a second piece that I had printed. Now I'm just blending in some blue to make it more dark and kind of the moody that I was going for. Now I'm going to write in my thoughts. Well, first I'm going to figure out where I want some stamp sentiments, and then I'll write out my thoughts. In the end, I don't think I left enough room for my thoughts, but that's okay. I picked out several stamp phrases, again using that stamp set Thoughts on Today. I've used that stamp set more for book journaling and reading, my reading journal here, than any other project. So I love this stamp set. And if it's available, I will, of course, link it. I have, well, that escalated quickly, put that in the bottom right, and this was so crazy, I put that over on the top right, also added in the news and have you seen this? And I'll fussy cut out both of those that were stamped on paper and add those on the left and the right hand side. So really, really versatile stamp set. I also remembered to add in my book rating, and I just blended that into the forest on the left hand side. Okay, so my thoughts. I've already kind of started sharing my thoughts with you, but again, it was a wild ride. Only read the excerpt, and then if you're willing to try a historical fiction book that might be a little bit different and not what you're expecting, then please try this. I don't think you will regret it. I loved it. I found it very fascinating, especially since there's some women's movement. The beginning of that is kind of in the book as well. And once Annie is, escapes the nuns, and she's still dealing with the aftermath of just giving birth. And she winds up on the streets and somehow stumbles into a woman's parlor. And one thing leads to another, and she becomes Diamond Bessie, entertaining men. And after several years of traveling and entertaining men, she meets and marries Abe. And that is where her life takes a tragic turn. Things just go from there. I can't really say much else beyond that, but things take a turn, and I wasn't expecting it. And it was very interesting the way that this author told the story of this little known historical person from Jefferson, Texas. And so over on the left-hand side, I didn't have any quotes. I couldn't find my photos of the quotes that I'd taken, and maybe I didn't. I don't know. But I just decided to add in 3 little tidbits that I wanted to add about the book. So I wrote about how there's a play in Jefferson, Texas about this person every year, and I personally think that Annie, never probably got her justice that she deserved. And I also enjoyed the insight to the women's movement because I think the treatment of women in many ways during this time was shocking. So I just put in those 3 different spots. And I also said that there is a special burial spot for Annie in Jefferson, Texas, which is interesting. Makes me want to go visit there. Added in my book rating, which is 5 stars, and I'm also going to stamp in some dots and X's with this stamp that I just love. And that will wrap up my spread. I'm just going to highlight a few words in gray and it'll be done. So if you try this book, you want to read this book, I would absolutely love to know, have a conversation. You can send me a message on Instagram. But I hope you have enjoyed. I would love a thumbs up or a subscribe if you're new to my channel. I so appreciate you watching, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.